Welcome to Finance Leaders Retirement Insights, the broadcast where we sit down with thought leaders in the world of finance who reveal their unexpected wisdom on the issues impacting retirement.
Welcome to the Finance Leaders Podcast, the show where we highlight the stories, insights, and expertise of financial professionals who are making a lasting impact on their clients and the industry. Today, I'm joined with David Mares, founder of Socius Wealth Management, a boutique advisory firm based in Phoenix, Arizona. David, welcome to the show.
Thank you very much for having me, Daniel, and I'm excited to be here.
Let's start with your story. How did you first get started in the financial world, and what drew you into this kind of work?
Well, thank you for starting there. That's a very interesting question. And as we all do have stories, I was born and raised into, somewhat of a blue collar family. My father was a welder, my mother a hairdresser by trades. And as I aged with children, I learned pretty quickly that somebody didn't love my family enough to introduce them to a financial advisor. Why do I say that, Daniel? It's really pretty simple. My family didn't grow up having conversations around the kitchen table about compounding interest. It was just work for a pension, save your money, and you'll be okay.
Wow. So was that kind of typical what you have seen around for yourself?
I think there's some uncommon bias that we all tend to portray upon certain types of people. And I think that there are some commonalities with whether it be origins of families, whether it be parts of the United States, but really what I've seen even as a financial advisor sitting with families is they are accustomed to a style of living, whether that's to work hard, pay off their home, and draw a pension. They seem to think that they're okay. Daniel, you and I know differently when we start to look at the numbers. 20 years ago, $1 million in a retirement account was enough to live off of. But when we start to crunch down those numbers, does $40,000 a year really afford just to keep the lights on a daily basis? It no longer does. So it goes back to my purpose and my why, right? When nobody loved my family enough to sit down, educate, and make sure that people understood what pros and cons were. Simple compounding interest. That's really what drew me to the industry, was being able to reach a vast majority of folks to make sure that the money that they have will last. But then I learned dealing with high net worth clients that even with a lot of money, you now pay a lot of taxes, right? So the math is math. It's not magic. So it doesn't matter if it's a $2 million retirement account or a $500,000 retirement account. There always needs some fine tuning to make sure that the proper tools are in place so that when those tax traps in retirement do pop up, we are tactically prepared for them.
That's great. Now, you name your firm Socius. Now, you mentioned to me that that's Latin for partner or ally. Tell me more what that name really means to you and how it reflects your approach.
Great question, Daniel. I think we really outlined that in my mission statement, right? As I think we've both agreed, it really goes down to a rooted level. It's just not about the numbers for me, right? This is actually a partnership. This is an ally on your side of the table. And really it comes down to the relationships. So much like you as a consumer get to choose your financial advisor, me as a financial advisor, I want to choose the consumers I work with because I'm going to walk with my clients every step of the way through retirement. And some folks say, hey, I do have an annual meeting with my advisor, but does your advisor know the nuances of your life and the changes that happen? Most recently, I had a client reach out to me who wasn't expecting to draw income for another 7 years. And that was our plan. Amidst her trip to Northern California, she called and said to me, David, we're moving from Arizona to Northern California and purchasing a home. What account do I use? So things happen, life changes. And with life, that those changes that come, I'm here to walk with you along every step of the way. So my clients, my relationships, we have good connections so that you feel free to call me carte blanche any day of the week, and I'm going to take your call.
So it sounds like you really work with people that you want to go and build relationships. That's really great. Now, you've working with clients is, in the situation, really pivotal moment that you kind of mentioned when you're working with them, preparing for retirement, selling a business, or navigating complex tax decisions. What are some, when someone comes to that transition to you, what's kind of your first priority with them? What is it the first thing that you kind of focus on?
Daniel, I think that dealing with a lot of people around the country, everybody has a goal. But I think there's one common thread. People want to feel heard, right? Whether it's navigating the tax traps in retirement, where is that coming from? Where's that stemming from? Where's that question popping up? Looking to purchase the home using the last client that I was speaking of. Where's that coming from? Is that an emotional purchase? Is that a tactical plan? So I really want to make sure that we can feel the need to hear each other as client and partner, because that really will help us create those strategic solutions in the future so that we can minimize those taxes during retirement, be able to give you proper guidance on repositioning, reallocating assets into some tax advantaged income like accounts.
Now, you said that people want more than just performance, as you mentioned, kind of they want that partnership. So in a world that kind of feels so transactional these days, how do you build real trust and connection with your clients?
Well, I think there's many books on this, Daniel. but what it really comes down to in 55 years of living my life is I've learned to really embrace and embody myself, my morals, my ethics, my values, and those will transcend through a phone conversation, through a personal kneecap to kneecap meeting, whether we're meeting in person or even virtually, right? I think that people can tell you really quickly if you're out for that transaction or if you're out for their best interest. And sometimes being able to reciprocate not just what you're hearing, but also being able to provide them some good guidance that doesn't cost you a dime, a little bit of time, but at the same time helps the client ask further questions to really what they're looking for in a relationship themselves.
Yeah. So many of the people that you mentioned that you work with, where it might be professionals, business owners, or employees, they often feel like they've done everything right, yet they still kind of worry about taxes, which I think is the big topic now. What's the one blind spot that you frequently help them to uncover when it comes around taxes?
Well, I think as a business owner, whether you have some investors or you're just a bootstrapped business owner, right? You grew this from the ground up, and every dollar you earn, you put right back into the business, always comes up with different nuances. So because businesses are built very differently, there can be a lot of different tax traps. Those tax traps can range all the way from, do I have a succession plan in place? Down to, am I providing enough retention for my employees, right? Do I have the proper tools in a retirement plan? Is a 401k the best option? How does that affect my bottom line? So the conversations in building a custom business, I think are in place, but sometimes there are nuances that can be just changed just a little bit to make sure that we can mitigate a few taxes and keep a few more dollars in the business owner's pocket.
That's great. Now, there's a lot of noise out there when it comes to financial advice. What really makes your approach different, and what do you wish more people understood earlier in their wealth journey?
Well, my approach is very direct and very clear, right? Hoping to find that clarity on that first conversation, that level of synergy. Because I will tell you, just as I know when I meet with a client, I have 10 seconds to buy myself another 10 seconds, to buy myself another 30. Can we, in those 50 seconds of time, decipher if we want to work with each other to uncover ideas and solutions to present options. I find that being myself, making sure that I'm leading not just with my heart, but also my intellect, and that I have a fantastic team behind me, Daniel, that quite frankly, we can shift and pivot just about in any way possible, right? Whether that be estate planning, whether it be tax advice from a CPA, whether it be a life insurance specialist, whether it be a finance specialist or a retirement specialist. And I delve in a handful of those myself, but we want to make sure that that comprehensive plan first starts with question number one, and that is, how can I save a few taxes in retirement? RMDs are a big conversation topic today. With the one big beautiful bill, Social Security. How does that affect everybody today? Do I have enough income to last for my lifetime? What is my lifetime, right? A lot of people don't know the resources to go and find certain things like this. And again, just being able to provide free information that they can find on Google, just to fact check what it is that I'm saying, cross-reference it against what their advisor is saying. And most commonly, I find that I work really well with other advisors because my objective is really asset preservation, right? We do want some money in the stocks. We do want some money at risk, but asset preservation, working with me and my team here at Socius Wealth, will be able to give us some clarity and be able to provide some complex financial situations. With regard to the noise in the industry, there is a lot of noise. Why are we attracted, Daniel? I don't know. Why are we attracted to the things that people say in a marketing campaign and think that that's the silver bullet, right? I can think of a family in Michigan just recently who went out and purchased a bunch of IULs for him, his wife, and his two children. Well, one of his children is special needs, right? There's some sophisticated niche planning for special needs children, right? And families who supports those children. So in listening to the conversation, we were able to mitigate about $1,000 a month in payments and put them into a more sophisticated plan that builds asset preservation, double-digit like returns, and still give him what he was looking for, which is peace of mind at the end of the day, Daniel. If something bad happened to him at the young age of 40, doing very well for himself, over $200,000 in salary, gave him some peace of mind, making sure that his wife was cared for. The children didn't have to sell their home in a down market, but making sure that they had a plan that will continually be robust enough to bode through time as the next 20 years unfolds.
Oh, that's a great example of how you work. Now, you mentioned team members. You recently aligned with the Institute of Untaxable Wealth, a network focused on advanced tax strategies. How has that really expanded what you're able to offer to your clients?
Well, that has been a phenomenal relationship, and it's been. I'm very humbled to have been offered an opportunity to sit with the Institute of Untaxable Wealth. And the reason I looked at this as an option is, number one, the brain power, right? I don't know what I don't know, but at the end of the day, if I can bring 2, 3, 4 professionals in a room to solve a solution, we can create strategic solutions, minimizing taxes in retirement, different guidance on repositioning those taxable assets into some tax advantage income, advanced preparation for even a business exit or intergenerational wealth transfers, Daniel, right? Legacy planning is definitely at the core of everybody's mind. It really is, do I want to pay the taxes on my accounts today? Do I want to pay them on tomorrow? Or do I want to leave them for my children? And a lot of people don't know that taxation is double taxation is subject to a lot of those retirement accounts if something bad was to happen. And a lot of people don't have that plan in place.
That's a great point that you bring. Now, let's talk about legacy. You know, it's not just about numbers, right? It's really about, values, vision, and impact. How do you help, your clients, the families, think about wealth and focus on what really matters?
Well, I think it starts with question number one. What does family mean to you? There are families I sit with that say, my kids are set, they're earning wonderfully, and they've got a little death benefit from my life insurance policy. But having a nice, deep conversation, some clients of mine don't even have children, never been married, and they just love to travel. So having that legacy conversation is always very topical. Because what if, Daniel, let's pretend for a moment something were bad to happen tomorrow. That person became sick, ill, or incapacitated, right? Do they have the proper permission slips in place at the financial institutions, the banks, so that people in their family can make decisions? Notice I use the word incapacitated, Daniel, not dead, right? Studies do show we don't die the first time we try. So let's pretend that I'm sitting here in a wheelchair and I can't communicate. Do I have the proper permission slips in place to allow my children or my wife to be able to make financial decisions for the family, for the legacy, for generational wealth to continue? And I think that's a topic that is underserved and always brought to the top of the conversation when I have meetings with other clients or prospects, hopefully to be clients in the short future.
You do bring a great point, I think, especially when it comes to, talking about insurance, that, most people, lose their house or lose something not because of death, but because of disability or injury or sickness. So that's really great point. Now, the industry is evolving quickly from, new tax law changes to AI to shifting economic condition. What's something that you're watching really closely right now that's really shaping the advice that you're giving today?
Well, Daniel, I think the industry is evolving, right? And it's moving at such a light speed pace that I think financial institutions have been behind the eight ball for many, many years, right? And how are we going to keep up with what we know is artificial intelligence today? We are starting to catch some steam with that, but we need to be able to make sure that we're able to crunch numbers a little bit faster. We can outline plans a little bit more clear. And at the same time, we can put a fine point really on what should happen in the next 6 months, 12 months to a year, right? Beyond that, we don't know what the future holds. But utilizing AI, having the partnerships in place around my team here at Socius Wealth to make sure that those people that are in tune with AI, focused on AI, are injecting that into Socius Wealth as we progress forward and talk with more prospects day to day.
Now, Dave, before the show, we had a conversation. The one thing that I get about you is that you kind of bring this sense of calm, thoughtful energy to your work. What really drives you personally? What's the deeper mission behind how you serve your clients?
Great question. And without becoming too emotional, it goes back to my very first story, right? Can I help clients make $1 million in retirement? No. I mentioned earlier, it's not magic. It is mathematical. But can we look at a situation today and make sure that we're positioned properly, given their outline, whether that outline is self-generated, whether that's through another fiduciary? Hey, why not fact check what is happening, stress test it frequently so that we can make sure that there are no changes? Daniel, I happen to be very fortunate to live in one of the top 5 zip codes in the United States here in Scottsdale, Arizona. You would think that a lot of entrepreneurs, a lot of business owners here don't face these types of challenges. I think you heard me mention earlier, I have 5 children, all grown and out of the house at this point. But I do recall my daughter's coming home from high school, one of them specifically, and she said, "Dad, the twins' father lost their job because he was in an accident on the job and you didn't have enough proper planning in place because now the girls can't afford the following, right? When you look at people based off of their shoes, their cars, their watches, their homes, we think they're doing well for themselves, whether that's a colleague, that we meet at the watering hole, whether that's somebody we look across the street and think that they're doing very well. They just came back from Italy, from France. I think at a surface level, we really don't get an opportunity to learn about each other in society today. I think we aren't vulnerable enough. And I try to lead with vulnerability, right? I don't know everything, but I do know where to go get it. And I will make sure that we have the right answers for prospects as they come to the table. And I want to make sure that everybody that comes in contact with me either walks away with a piece of information, i.e. knowledge. What does Benjamin Franklin say? An investment in knowledge provides the most power. Something along those lines. But that being said, I want to make sure that I can leave a lasting impression. And that lasting impression is, I got good guidance. Maybe I should have gone back. I feel very comfortable. I'd like to see what else David and the Socius Wealth Management team brings to the table. Either way, I'm here to do a service. And if that results into transactional, fantastic. If not, I tell people my door is always open. You have my cell phone contact. Please reach out to me day or night. I'm happy to give you some direction as to where to find some information.
You bring a great point. Often when I'm having these conversations with advisors, what really comes across that the financial business has nothing to do with finance. There is more of the story. There is that personal side of things behind the numbers and what those numbers actually mean. So I think that's really great, to hear that you kind of have that same point of view on that and how you're dealing with, with your clients. Now, looking ahead, what's kind of the next for you and Socius Wealth Management? How do you see your impact expanding over the next 5 to 10 years?
Looking at our core values on an annual basis, Daniel, this is always a little bit in flux, but there is still one common thread. And for me, it is to help as many families as I possibly can. A lot of advisors you'll see, whether they're with a captive agency, whether they're independent, or whether they're at a wirehouse, right? They're there to punch a clock, create a nice paycheck. For me, I continue to work from dusk to dawn. And the reason that I want to do that is because I feel like I've got another solid 25 years in me to really push forward. And the one thing about this industry that drives me and makes me smile is it affords me to work well into retirement with clients. As I look at Socius Wealth, I look at the team members around me, the Institute of Untaxable Wealth Planning, and other team members. I've also created an environment where intellectually we're going to create the property so that we can grow people with similar ethics, morals, and values, provide them a nice lifestyle to be able to provide that same level of comfort, partnership, and that personalized approach toward wealth management. So we are looking at grooming some young financial advisors that will take time, but we're partnering up with the right teammates to make sure that they're utilizing strategic guides, standard operating procedures to help clients in, arguably what could be very important financial milestones for families. So if I can help create change, not just for myself, for the clients, but also for the people around me, my team, together, I believe we can be unstoppable. And what do I mean by unstoppable? I don't mean that we need to go out and make millions and millions and millions of dollars. I mean that we are creating change with the people we meet with it on a daily basis, even if it's just leaving them with a smile to let them know that not every financial advisor is cut from the same cloth.
That's great. Now, Dave, before we close, is there anything else besides all of the things that we have shared that you want to share, something that we have not covered that's really dear to your heart?
Well, Daniel, thank you for letting me close with that. I'm not quite sure where to go with that because hopefully what you guys are hearing in this moment is I do kind of hang my heart on my sleeve. And that is, I don't have every answer covered. And I'm okay saying that, right? I know what I know and I know it well, and I'm very confident with it. But that being said, I've created that team around me to make sure that we do cover all of the bases when we look at estate planning, business exit, people capital gain issues, retirement income planning, IRMA issues, right? Do we have the tools in place to make sure that the families are cared for and have a proper plan? That being said, we're not here to sell products. We're really here to help people with wisdom, guide people with wisdom, wealth strategy, so they can move forward with peace of mind and a real partner by their side.
Thank you for that, David. Now, for anyone listening who wants to connect with you directly, what's the best way for them to reach out to you?
Yes. If you would send an email, you're welcome to send an email to info, I-N-F-O, at sociuswealthmgt.com. Socius is spelled S-O-C-I-U-S, Socius Wealth MGT, MikeGeorgeTom.com. My team will get back to you pretty quickly within 24 hours of notifying you that we've received your information, your intrigue, and somebody will get on the phone with you to decipher which position or which direction we need to go. For those people who like to just pick up the phone, that's me. I don't like to use chat bots. I pick up the phone and want to talk to people. You're welcome to give me a direct call. My number is 602-317-5332. That number one more time is 602-317-5332, and that will go directly to me.
That's great. David, thank you for this insightful and grounded conversation. You know, the clarity and care that you bring to your work is exactly, I believe, what the industry needs, and you're also what your client needs more of. So for anyone listening who's ready to rethink their tax strategy, prepare for major life transaction, or simply wants a trusted partner, be sure to visit Socius Wealth Management. And to our listeners, thank you for tuning in. If you enjoyed this episode, don't forget to subscribe and share the Finance Leaders Podcast for more conversations with top industry professionals. Until next time, take care and keep building your financial future with purpose. Thank you, David, for your time.
Thank you, Daniel, for having me. You guys have a wonderful day.
Thanks for joining us on this episode of Finance Leaders Retirement Insights.